Boom, boom, boom. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are in this amazing world. This is my first live stream. I've got an absolute banger prepared for you guys. We have an OG inside of the community named RG3. This guy is the one that brought me on to the PulseChainTour. He's one of the people that spearheaded the entire Hex and PulseChain movement, from the early days before there was even a logo. And, I figured that it would be a great opportunity to start live streaming, bringing him on, somebody that's really spearheading a lot of the development and growth in the community. And yeah, someone that I respect, that I've actually met personally. And I know that you guys are going to feel the same way. So thank you so much, Captain, for joining us today.
What's happening? Thanks for having me, buddy.
Thank you so much. This is a good time because this is the first time I've actually live streamed on my channel. And when I had the opportunity to hang out with you a little bit at the actual PulseChainTour, I kind of got the opportunity to meet a lot of people, but you're kind of the person that's spearheading a lot of that. And that was the first conference that I actually had the opportunity of going to. So it was a really good introduction for me because I felt like you guys did a phenomenal job preparing everything, how all the speakers, how everything went. And so, yeah, like, how did you guys actually start getting into planning like the tour? How did you guys how long have you guys actually been running it? A couple years now or one?
Yeah, a couple years now. Well, it started out with, we started Discourse Syndicate on YouTube, which was, the Hex community stream. I would turn the stream on Friday nights and just give the stream key out there to anybody who wanted to join. It's like, hey, come on in, let's talk about Hex, or come FUD Hex, or argue with us, whatever. And we just left it open, and it became the F and Hangout, which stood for the Friday Night Hangout. And we've had it all on there, you name it. Richard's come on our stream, in the early days multiple times. We've had just about every Hex streamer started there and kind of, got their legs there and started streaming. But during that, we decided to have the first Hex meetup. And it was literally here in a park in LA. We all met at this park and kind of just hung out, and then went and had lunch and kicked it with each other. So that was it. That was like the first meetup. And I thought, and then relationships started developing from there. And I was like, now I get it. So I drew the smart people out of the Telegram, the dark recesses of Telegram, and into the YouTube's, world in front of everybody, for everybody's eyes to see. And then we started creating these events where we were meeting and starting to develop relationships. And what I know from doing these things in the past, from building, networks and businesses based on, relationship marketing and whatnot, that we needed a strong community. We needed people coming together, and nothing builds community and relationships and the strength of that community better than people meeting in person.
Yep.
Eye-to-eye communication, networking, breaking things down for each other, and then building trust, because that's the key element in creating a community, is that trust. So it's easy to get into fights and dismiss each other, or have communications go ill because of the 2D world that we all live in here on the internet. But when you get in front of somebody, that's when it's time to explain yourself. That's when it's time to understand one another and see each other's, facial expressions, what's going on. And so that's where I came up with the, hey, let's start doing events. And we did a meetup in Vegas, and it got big. And we said, okay, let's do another one. I backed out of the next one. It got kind of too big and convoluted, the second Vegas one. So I backed out of it. And then the community came together, and we said, okay, well, we've learned from our mistakes from that event. We learned from the things that have worked. So let's put it all together again. And we also had a tour that had gone on by Crypto Spallbook guys. They went and toured the US, and they did some things right and some things wrong. And so myself, Kalen, Black Hexagon, and SJ got together and said, okay, let's find all the things that we did right, the things that we did wrong, and let's start building an event. So the PulseChainTour, last year, we started the PulseChainTour, toured the whole country, and that's how that started. Meeting, networking, whatnot. And now we've turned it into a global event. This year, we're going to run around the globe. We're going to go to Europe. We're going to go to Canada. We're probably going to go to Australia. And then, of course, some US stops. And then what we've decided from this year already is that, you know, we need to focus on one big main event. And it's more than likely the tour this year. We'll go out and finish this tour up, but we'll probably end up the 369 event. March 6th through the 9th is always going to be the Vegas event. And we're going to keep planning it in the future and just grow that until my goal is to fill stadiums. I want to fill stadiums with people talking about DeFi.
True. Heck yeah. Well, I think that this is the time where you guys are going to see that. You know, it's amazing because you see the progression through the cycles where people get more excited about crypto in general, where you have the kind of the ups and downs where you go to some events in the bear market and there might be like nobody that shows up. You go to an event in the bull market and you have thousands of people. So a lot of that, you know, is dictated around what's happening in the cycle. And I think that we're at such an amazing opportunity in, you know, PulseChain and then the entire crypto space as a whole, seeing everything kind of breaking out, seeing everything taking off. One thing I wanted to, you know, ask you is what was really, why did you get so invested into Hex? You know, when you were into Bitcoin and like Ethereum early on, weren't you? Like you were already dabbling in some of the other stuff. What was it that drove you to Hex? And then, you know, from that point, why PulseChain today?
So in 2009, people were shilling me in-game cryptocurrencies in my company that I had created. We supported a game called Counter-Strike. It was a gaming platform, social media, that kind of stuff. Yeah. And we passed on any crypto in the game in the platform. Then in 2014, somebody, a developer, asked me for some Bitcoin, and I saw Bitcoin come out in 2010, and we thought, nah, overpriced PayPal bull crap, you know, not going to deal with it, whatever. And then so I went and I set up the stupid little wallet thing they wanted me to do, and I sent them the Bitcoin, and there was a handful of change left in there, small amount, like 30 something bucks, something I can't remember. And then in a few months later, it was 2015, somebody asked me for some more Bitcoin. I'm like, oh, damn, that PayPal thing again. Here we go. So I opened the wallet up, and when I opened up the wallet, I was a little surprised because there was like 800 bucks in that thing.
Wow.
So now I'm like, wait a second here. So I sent the guy his Bitcoin, and I doubled up that bag of that Bitcoin. I was like, okay, I'm going to get as much to send to him, but I'm going to keep some in there because that thing did something over the last few months. So then I got into, you know, online, just searching, just looking at everything Bitcoin. And then I ran across the white paper, and I literally spent like the next 72 hours awake, reading, gobbling up everything crypto I could. And I was hooked. I'm like,
so what year was this?
That was in 2015. So that was like, that's it. I'm all in on this crypto game. Yeah. This is going to be the thing that could change finance, change the world, you know? So after that, I dove into a world of just, you name it, every black, dark, deep alley in crypto, I was in it. My hands are as dirty as anybody's out there. I had friends that went to prison, you name it. The whole thing was just, I flew to Thailand and was hanging out there with people and mining operations. And I won't even say there's some big names that were involved in a lot of that stuff, but it was just, by the time 17 came and everything was running, I was like, yeah, man, even though there's some really shady crap going on back here, this thing has got legs. It's going to go. I was watching my bag move. And then right around the end of November, beginning of December, I had a cousin who was in Bitcoin. He goes, dude, I'm all out, man. I'm putting a swimming pool in my backyard. I'm selling all my Bitcoin. I go, dude, you shouldn't do it, man. You shouldn't. This thing is the future. This is going to go way further than we're looking at right now. This, 20K Bitcoin is nothing, man. Well, he cashed out. I didn't. Boom, Richard called the top. Everything went down. Everybody laughed at me. My family ostracized me. My wife was just like, and then he puts a swimming pool in his backyard, and everybody's like, oh, he's the smart one who cashed out. So I was disgusted. I was disgusted at Richard. He called the top. And then I was like, a day later, like sitting there sulking, thinking, I'm like, you kind of like blocked and unfollowed the dude that called the top. He was like the smart one. He's not the one that's the enemy. He's the guy that knew what he was talking about. Maybe you should take a step back and go see what this guy's been talking about. And that's what I did in 18 is I went back, looked at all Richard's stuff and went, wow, man, this guy is really down. This dude's not just your typical scammy guy that I've been dealing with out here. I think this guy's got something to say. And then that's when I watched him talk about his fluid dynamics coin. And that kind of just went over my head. I really didn't understand the whole thing. But then he talked about Bitcoin Hex, and he talked about certificate deposit.
Yeah.
And I put that together as now we have somebody talking about real solid financial products that have market fit globally. Like the CD market is a $7 trillion market space. So now we're talking. And that's why I was really interested in Hex. And then as I watched, I was like, okay, is this guy going to have his own wallet and do this weird stuff or hold your coin somewhere? And no, it was like he was finally speaking and coming up with the things that were true DeFi. And when he did that and he launched it and everything went as he said, I was like, wow, we really got our hands on the first DeFi product ever to be put in front of, us crypto folks. So that's when I was all in and just started to say, I'm just going to support this thing 100%.
So that's really interesting because there's so many people that, for example, my side of the community, because like I come from talking about multiple different cryptos. I've never really been a maximalist on anything. There's certain things that I think are more valuable than others, but I've always kind of made my money by going around and finding different opportunities that I thought were good for maybe short-term narratives or even long-term plays. But the universal thing has been the fact that almost every single person inside of the market has a negative opinion on Richard Hart, except for the people that are inside of his communities, being Hex, PulseChain, or any of the other tokens. And so there's this super big negative stigma around him. It seems like no matter what he does, people are always going to feel that way. And, I have my own personal beliefs around Richard Hart. I don't like the way that he comes off on social media. And I think that it's honestly like pushes a lot of people like the wrong way. But at the end of the day, this was one of the big things that I struggled with as well, was kind of like, is this guy just here to steal everybody's money? Is he here just to, get rich? And then, that's pretty much his only goal, which is what I initially thought. Because in the early days, I saw value in Hex. I saw, the way that Richard was actually marketing it. And at the time, I literally was so broke. I was living in my grandma's house in her basement, and I didn't have any money. Literally, I didn't have a car, nothing. So I couldn't invest into it, even though I wanted to. But as the cycle went on, as he started marketing, as he started buying all this crazy stuff and saying how smart he was, saying how rich he was, and how he's right about everything, that's when he got this super negative stigma around him. And so that was like where I started to, think that he was a scammer. I started to think these things. And then it was once I kind of came over to PulseChain that I started to, being willing to at least be wrong, look into things a little bit, see what the details were. Was there anything on chain that basically proved that he was scamming? And what I've been able to find is that he's never actually scammed anything. And the beauty of Hex and PulseChain itself is the fact that even though at the end of the day, everybody has their own opinion on Richard Hart, he's been able to create something that is valuable, that is truly decentralized in Hex. It was actually one of the first forms of DeFi that was in the market. So this was before we had Chainlink, before we had all of these new DeFi protocols that blew up. Hex really did cement itself as being, a true form of DeFi before we had all of the, advancements today. So as I've looked into it myself, I've come to realize that regardless of my opinions of like the way he comes off on social media and some of these things, he has created real value. He does have the best interest of people in mind as far as keeping things decentralized, as far as being your own bank, as far as keeping, your money off centralized exchanges. He did call the top. He did call some of these centralized lenders and exchanges that went bankrupt. So he does have a consistent track record, and I can speak for that because I've been following him since before Hex. So I actually know who the guy was before any of this existed. So I wanted to hear a little bit about your opinion on the average person that might be watching from my subscriber base that have a negative opinion on Richard Hart, have a negative opinion on Hex and PulseChain. I wanted to hear your perspective as somebody who's seen, every single bit and piece from the beginning of conception, basically.
Yeah. So, disclaimer, I consider Richard my friend. I also got to know him, and I think that's what really matters when it comes to my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
grew up in Inglewood, the streets of Inglewood. I grew up where you had to understand personalities and people and read them in order to survive in gangland LA. And I became pretty intuitive when it came to people and their intentions and their personalities. And when I saw Richard the first time in his top hat stuff, I saw, hey, this guy really does care. He's trying to do something here, a little quirky, but extremely smart and cares. So when I saw that, I know that those types of people can come across crass, can come across blunt and really be offensive to those people who aren't intelligent enough to see that personality trait or defect or whatever some may call, that's who Richard is. He's a very intellectual person. He's very impatient and short-tempered with people who don't meet him at his level. So therefore he can come across very rude and very short and whatnot. As he doesn't feel like he has time to explain to you over and over again what he's trying to say. And that's kind of Richard's personality. So with that all being said, I thought that Richard, being who he is, did a great job as a front man. Now, I know that this whole space, the internet, the generation of people investing in crypto for the most part, love this shiny object syndrome, love the wealth being flashed around. I mean, I saw it out here, with the big club guys and all that running around their Lambos in LA, and they were all scamming. So if you go back to Richard's streams, he would say, look, I'm just trying to save you all. I'm trying to speak the language you want to hear and trying to help you get your money out of all this garbage. And now that was before the Celsius and the Luna and all that stuff went down, and then they all pulled him on stream, debated him and said, you're going to end up in an orange jumpsuit, Richard. And they're the ones who ended up in the orange jumpsuits, which is beautiful poetry, because Richard was the guy trying to explain to them that they were all doing it wrong. And nobody listened. Now, did I think that Richard's marketing tactics with the Gucci and all that stuff was good or bad? There is no good or bad. There just is. And he got a lot of eyes. His Twitter followers went through the roof. Like him or not, people were listening to him. I think that he poked a lot of maxis in the eye in the beginning, calling out Craig Wright, or calling out what's the name? Doggone it. That's not his name, right? Yeah, it is. Just the things that he was doing. He was speaking truth to power. The Tone Vases, all of those guys did not like what he was saying, because what he was doing was exposing the Bitcoin maxis. He was exposing the problems of Bitcoin, the problems of Ethereum. He was exposing them. And nobody wanted to talk about that. Everybody was shilling all the time, and as good as Bitcoin is for bringing attention to the space and creating crypto for all of us, and as appreciative of I am of it, if Bitcoin came out today, it would be garbage and nobody would buy it. Yeah, because it's slow. You can't build on it. It's the freaking first iteration of crypto. We're in a technology space. We need to move forward. Even Ethereum has problems now, even though it's proof of concept of smart contracts and all of that stuff, they still can't scale the thing properly. Yeah. So the investors have taken over the tech, and that's the biggest problem that we have. And Richard wasn't one of those guys. Richard used that narrative like, hey, if you want to make some money, you need to come over here because I'm building the best shit that there is. And I'm going to do it, twerking in some Gucci and wearing 3 or 4 Rolexes. Because people wanted to see that crap. I personally wanted to see something different. I don't know what it was, but Richard did what he can do and what he wanted to do. And it brought eyes. And it didn't make things easy for all of us, because we, the field general's the field general, and he's taking us up those hills. And that meant we had to go up those hills with him. And, for those of us who weren't real crypto savvy, For those of us who weren't real well versed in, streaming and being as polished as some of these other guys out there, that were out there scamming, and leading people down the road to ruin. It was hard for us to keep up with that act that they were all pulling, but you know what? I wouldn't trade it for anything, because it made us who we are, and it made us as strong as we are. And now I can go toe to toe with any of them out there, because I know that they got nothing on us. We are true DeFi. We are an organic community, and we're doing all this stuff on our own. Richard is not, telling us what to do, or asking us to do anything, or paying us to do anything. This is a community that's building this thing. And that makes me proud. That makes us even better. We are, I think, the first true crypto community out there supporting a blockchain and a crypto that, are actually true DeFi.
Yeah, no, I would, back that as well, which is kind of the reason why I saw so much value on PulseChain as a whole was, there's something unique over here between the community, the way everything was created, because you have a perfect combination of things that kind of created what we see today, where you had Richard came out with the idea for Hex. Hex comes out. He got so much backlash for it because he pissed off the Bitcoin community, because he pissed off the Ethereum communities. And so at the time, that's who owned everything, and, still does to this day for the most part. But at that time, it was more so dominated by just those two communities. So then when he pissed off both of them, they own all of the listing websites. They have all of the partnerships for the exchanges, all of that stuff. So if you mess with the cabal in crypto, you don't get any of the same accessibility. So, what we ended up seeing, though, was Hex ended up hitting top 3 in market cap in the last cycle, which is something most people don't realize, because it wasn't listed on CoinMarketCap. It wasn't listed on CoinGecko or any of these other sort of sites. So to see it do all of that, it's really surprising, because it shows a couple different things. It shows that the community here that supports it is massive. It shows that Richard was easily right in many of his things, basically creating a true form of DeFi people believe in. And then the price obviously reflected that. There's a lot of demand. But then also, it proved that there's a lot of money on chain, that you can be truly decentralized, because he was because Hex was not listed on any of the main exchanges like Coinbase, or any of them for that matter, because it wasn't listed on any like CoinMarketCap or anything like that. The only way you found it was by using Uniswap. The only way you found it was by actually using the blockchain. So everybody that was over here was early to Uniswap. They were already using a lot of these different things before, like a year or so more than everybody else was. So realistically, they have one of the most thriving communities I've ever seen. And that's kind of why I wanted to come over here, was like, I haven't seen anything like this since the 2016 Bitcoin community, but it changed so much in 2017 when Ethereum came on scene. And so to see this ecosystem that's been gatekept, that all of the money is on chain, that it hasn't relied upon, centralized exchanges or anything like that, to me, it is more decentralized than so many of the other things in there. And I think that that's something people need to realize, is once you actually realize and take the time to look into things a little bit deeper, you see that most cryptos are basically a house of cards held together by construction paper and tape, and they're propped up by a few big whales that hold the entire supply. So when you get down to it, it's not necessarily such a bad thing, because you have Satoshi and some of those things, with whales playing the game, but it's when the whales have the best interest of themselves in mind versus somebody that genuinely wants to see others profit. And that's the thing that, regardless of my opinions of Richard Hart, regardless of the way he comes off sometimes, and some of those things, he has always had the interest of making sure everybody else profits, pumping everybody else's bags, and seeing the people that believed in him win. And you can't say that about the vast majority of people in crypto. And I think that it's at least something that people should be aware about. Doesn't mean you have to go invest into everything, or even, do anything with his tokens. But at the end of the day, he has been able to create something real. He's been one of the most vocal people when it comes to, some of the fraud in crypto. And at the end of the day, when you look at the reasons why people hate him, it's usually just because of the fact you have like a conglomerate of people that have just said to hate him, and then everybody kind of followed suit. So I don't think anybody should really take it too seriously.
Well, I am definitely, you can talk to the community about, not one for conspiracy theories. I don't buy into that crap. But here's something that I do know, and the writing's on the wall. It's not conspiracy theories. There's a lot of gatekeeping going on here with Hex and Richard and all that within the crypto space. And he's proved things to, like somebody just said in the chat, market cap. Market cap could be a bullshit narrative.
It is.
Bullshit metric. I can make a coin, make 1 trillion of them, sell you one for $1. Now we got $1 trillion market cap, right?
Exactly.
So, however, market cap macroeconomics means something. It's a way to gauge a market to see how much money's flowing, that kind of thing.
Right.
To an extent. So there were a lot of narratives that Hex punched holes in. The fact that, I didn't know when I first got here that Bitcoin had bugs. I was like, what? What do you mean Bitcoin had bugs? I go back and I start doing the research. Bitcoin's had 3 bugs. The Bitcoin Cash developer that was working on Bitcoin Cash found one that could have minted 1 billion Bitcoin, and he exploited it and said, hey guys, check this out. We got a problem here. And luckily for all of us, he did that, because that could have been the end of crypto at that point in time. So just the fact that these things that Richard has been exposing, and brought to fruition, like liquidity providing, and how the value of tokens move with each other as they're paired in liquidity pairs. All of these things that we learned, Richard has brought to the table, also talking about true DeFi and not selling out to the centralized exchanges, not selling out to the influencers. And look what's just recently happened. So all the influencers out there, I know through being, backstage with some of them and hanging out at Bitcoin conferences with some of them at their VIP events, that they're all bought and paid for, that they're all handled, that they're all, this is a ruse. It's a ruse, folks. They are paid to shill things. They are paid and handled. And I saw that. And I'm like, no, man, I push my own buttons. I don't have a production team. No, I don't. Nobody pays me to do what I do. No, I pay for all this stuff. All my equipment. Yeah, I bought it. I invested my returns from what Richard brought me into to, build a studio, to make a movie, to do all. This is all, we did this. This community did this. Those people are all handled by people that are backing those centralized organizations, those centralized exchanges, those coin aggregating site or, ranking sites. All of those things are paid for, and we're not buying them, and Richard's not buying them. So guess what? We're being gatekept. That's what's happening here for real. Look what happened to Ben BitBoy just recently. He started going against the grain. He actually, and I've had personal conversations with the man about, what happened with Hex, and man, dude, you were like talking about it a little bit, and then you'd back off, and then you'd talk a little bit more and you'd back off. And I thought it was weird. It was like, he wasn't poking us in the eye, but he wasn't helping us out either. It's like, we needed people like him to help us out in those days. It felt like we were getting slaughtered, and nobody was coming to our aid. And when I talked to him, he was like, my people, my handlers, my team didn't want me talking about it, and then there were some personal things. Personally, people didn't like Richard. And that's another thing, as soon as somebody gets butthurt and they have a personality issue, they start, no, screw that guy. And behind the scenes, they're doing stuff to gatekeep them. And that's what a lot of that stuff was happening. And Richard didn't make it any better by going out there and shaking his ass in front of everybody's faces. Right.
Right.
So that's what we've got. That's what happened. And now Ben, finally getting away from that cabal that was running him, is now doing his own thing. And what did he do? He came running to this community. He came running to DeFi. He came running to Richard. Why? Because Ben knows what's going on here. He's got a long way to go. He's got to garner a lot of, trust and faith in this community in order to be, embraced. But I like what he's saying. I like what he's trying to do. And I'm glad that he was able to escape that and still bring him and his reputation and everything that he has over here to, to help with this DeFi space. Because Ben and I both know that DeFi is, what we have to be pushing. If we're not pushing DeFi, if we're not taking it to the legislation out there, then we're going to lose. Because if we think it's bad right now, being gatekept by just these little pansy-ass crypto folks, wait until the BlackRock money comes in. Wait until the Fidelity money comes in. Wait until the big bankers want to start moving this thing the way they want to move it. That's when we're going to really start seeing. So it's a good damn thing that we're ready to go right now, because the big money's coming and they're coming after us. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. I mean, that's the thing, you know, I've been in crypto for 8 years, and inside of these last couple years, I've had the opportunity to see how the inner workings of how all of these projects launch, how they go through this little inner circle of Telegram groups and other sort of things to more or less just artificially promote things. And so if you're inside of the circle, you know, it's really great because you can make all the money in the world. But if you're outside of that circle, you're kind of just getting everybody else's sloppy seconds. And crypto's migrated so much from being sort of what I got into it for, being more of a libertarian movement. Doesn't matter your political affiliation. One thing we can all agree on is that we need our money to be decentralized and away from banks, away from corporations, away from these evil entities. But the biggest fear I've always had with crypto was knowing that one day there was going to be a point where the TradeFi guys come over, when all of the big institutional money comes over, where, you know, they rinse out all of the weak hands, rotate the capital back into their pockets, and then they ultimately end up owning everything, which they've done it with every single thing in the history of all things. Any technology, any, you know, asset, whatever it is, they've been able to control it. And so I've always wondered how that was going to navigate with crypto. How are we going to be able to kind of fight back against these people? Because in theory, crypto is the thing that could actually like save us from a lot of this corruption and all this financial ruin, but it can also be used to control even more so. And so the issue I was starting to really lose like sight and like passion in crypto, because I started to see how rigged everything was. I saw how everything was pretty much rigged for the rich. And if you weren't a rich person with the insider information, you were just stuck holding the bag. And so seeing that happen over and over, it made me to really lose sight with the original values of crypto, like why I got into it. And when I came over to PulseChain, I saw the community of people that were actually a lot like that original Bitcoin community, how they'd kind of been gate kept, how they had to build their own alternatives. You don't have, you know, this foundation, or you don't have Richard Hart, or you don't have this company that's coming over here and saying, okay, well, we're going to have this event here, and we're going to fund the whole thing, and we're going to produce these ads here, and we're going to do this marketing campaign. Everything's done by the community itself, which is the real value of decentralization at the forefront. And so it's like people can hate on Richard because they don't feel like he's doing enough. But at the same time, Satoshi only did enough for Bitcoin, which was just to get the system rolling. So if you want a truly decentralized system, there's a certain, I guess, method you kind of have to follow. And the community has to build everything. And this is one of the only examples I've ever seen in crypto, talking maybe Bitcoin as a comparison, or maybe like, you know, just there's really not very many comparisons where you have such a thriving community, where you have true DeFi, a proven product that hasn't been hacked, the creators never sold any tokens, the creators never done anything in the back end. Like, you can prove everything on chain. And I think that there's real value in that, because, you know, ultimately all of my insecurities around Hex, PulseChain, and all of the above were proven wrong the second I just looked into it. And I think that the same could be said for other people that, you know, are at least willing to look into it for themselves.
Yeah. No, that's the truth. You're I don't know if your internet's funking out a little bit, but you're kind of wrecked as far as your audio and visual goes.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. That's my big issue when it comes to the live streaming, is wondering if this is going to hold up all the way out in, you know, the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, it's you're frozen basically, but maybe hit the turn the camera off, see if that works. Now, like, at least it won't mess up your audio.
How's it working now?
Yeah, you sound great now. So
all
it's
right,
just a little bit of bandwidth issue is all. No, you know, the community thing and effort and all is great. It makes sense that, you know, it's us that's going to go out there and take it to the world, and try to beat the centralized exchanges and the money houses, because you know, you said, you know, what are we going to do when that starts coming in? And it's funny because I've watched all of the Bitcoin influencers and the maxis out there cheering on BlackRock coming in and buying all the Bitcoin. They're happy about it. They want number to go up. So it proves really where they're coming from. And when you see all the OTC trades, they're selling. Guys,
Yep.
These Bitcoiners that had the old big bags, they're selling it. Go ahead and go look at what BlackRock has now. Look at how much Bitcoin they bought. And the only reason the chart's going up is because people are seeing that the OTC trades are happening and they're getting themselves prepared for it to pump harder because they got it. They sold their Bitcoin. The maxis sold you out, crypto. All that shit talking that they've been doing, all the yelling and screaming at everybody else for building shit coins that they've been handed to all of us. They just wanted their bags to pump because they're all selling out right now. All the big old bags are going over to the money houses. And now the money houses have all the Bitcoin. So how are we going to win? We're going to win with numbers. We're going to win with legislation. We're going to win by turning this thing into a real revolution. And that means that we're going to have to fight fire with fire. We're going to have to get into DC. We're going to have to start using our power and of the people to start making noise and to get in there in front of legislators and start changing things. Because if we don't, if we sit on our laurels and it'll probably pop up in the chat right here. Oh, forget it. Screw the government. You don't need to do it. Yeah, sit back and let the government go ahead and tell you what to do. You don't go do anything about it. Don't do anything about it. The only time that anything good's ever been done is when good people get up off their asses and go do it. And I hear so many people out there on the Twitter spaces and all over the internet and the social medias talking about the evil government and how screwed everything is and blah, blah, blah. But nobody's getting up off their ass and going and do anything. Nobody's going to DC and talking to the lobby houses. Nobody's finding out what they're doing and what they're up to. Nobody's going in trying to create their own PACs and super PACs and change the government. You just want to sit back and armchair quarterback and tell everybody, go buy some fucking macaroni and cheese, put it in your garage and wait for the zombie apocalypse and get a couple of guns too. That shit ain't going to work. You got to get up off your dead asses and go get some stuff done. And if we don't, we're going to lose DeFi.
It's true. They've already got a huge footing on the whole market as is. And now with the TradeFi people, now with the institutions rolling in, it really is the last moment of true decentralization can exist. And that's why people need to be fighting for it right now. This really is the last opportunity that we have because, with these guys moving in, this is really where all of the legislation is going to get passed. This is where all of the big money is going to make their plays, position themselves accordingly. And if there's not, the average people that are also thinking of this stuff and keeping it all in the back of their heads, then they're ultimately going to get pushed out and it's going to be another sort of system of control. It's going to be another system that is, doesn't end up working for the benefit of the average person in the ways that it actually can. Because when we look at these other countries that have fallen apart, these other countries that have had some of this economic turmoil with their centralized banks, what we end up seeing is they've been the biggest adopters of crypto. And you have so much more ease of access in these communities. And I think that the same thing can happen to the entire world if we have a system that's truly peer-to-peer, if we have a system that we're ultimately, not being pushed out on, not having some new system that cuts out the average person from participating, because I think we're at this point where we're just a couple years away before we're going to see a lot of the finalization towards what this means with this institutional money coming in, how crypto is going to change, what's going to stick around, what's going to be outlawed. I think that that's going to be over the next couple of years where we're going to see a lot of, cryptos crash or succeed long term. And it's really the people that are putting their stamp on things. They're willing to go and, whatever it takes to make sure that they're not the ones getting stepped over. I think that this stuff really has the opportunity of changing the world in a big way. It's just that we're at that kind of last second time where it's like we're either going to get it done or we're not.
You're right, 100. And we're not going to get it done if we don't get together and do this as a group effort. For instance, the stupid trolls in the chat rooms. Let's see what happens. First of all, let's see what happens. You're not talking about PulseChain going down being a feature, are you? Because that would be stupid, because we're in a bear market. Everything's gone down 90%.
Yep.
That's what's happened. So first of all, if you sack day one and you haven't made anything, join the party, man. Join the party. The whole crypto space is down. It's just ridiculous, some of these people. And you said I sold? Bro, I've made my CD ladders or my Hex ladders, my staking ladders to retire. And that's what I've done. And that's what we've been teaching people how to do for the last 4 years. Actually, 6 years we've been watching Richard build this, and we've been telling people how to use the tools for the last 4 years. So if you missed your boat, don't worry, it's coming again, man. We got a bull market coming, but we need all of us. We need all of us to quit trolling each other. We need all of us to come together and see what true DeFi is. And not knowing what's really going on here and talking out of the side of your neck and saying things to people out there that aren't true or you don't understand is ridiculous. Just because you have a platform to speak doesn't mean you should. You need to get educated first, my brother.
True. Well said. I mean, that's the thing, is people want to hate about every single little detail, but at the end of the day, you know, there's nobody here that's been pushing towards growing the community, between getting more adoption, bringing more faces, bringing people in the community together, than what you guys have been doing with the PulseChainTour, you know, having me on, be able to speak over there. That was a good opportunity because it was the first time I got to see a lot of these community members, got to interact with you, SJ, everybody that was there, even Ben Armstrong, BitBoy. And you start to see that everybody has the same perspective, where everybody wants the best for, you know, their finances. Everybody wants the best for each other in the community. And you have this tight knit group of people that really want the best of everybody involved. And everybody's kind of pushing towards getting this long-term adoption. And I think it's really amazing because you don't see the same significance inside of the other communities. You don't see the same push that they're making towards trying to actually get adoption, taking the extra step needed. It seems like everybody's always waiting around, waiting for somebody else to do all the work. And the truth of the matter is, I don't see another community, and I don't see a creator of another coin that's trying to actually drive the value of every single one of the tokens so that everybody that's an investor is there to profit. His ultimate goal is to see everything go up in a lot of value, because he knows that that's the way everybody makes the most money, to help themselves, to help build the ecosystem, to help fund, you know, whatever the hell they want to do. It doesn't really matter. If you want to see real value in the world, you want to be somebody that creates value, you know, the way that you give the opportunity for everybody else to do the same thing, you give a platform for everybody else to create their own sort of network effect, then the amount of value long term that's created is just insane. It's exponential. And I see something here with the community, with, you know, an entire ecosystem that is getting ready to take off. And we're at this final little moment where it seems like everybody's at each other's throats and they don't really know what to think about it. People that have been around here feel like, oh man, well, the markets are taking off, we're getting left behind. And it just seems like ultimate disbelief right before everything, you know, just blows up in everyone's face. So I definitely recommend everybody looks into the ecosystem, because I see value here at the very, you know, minimum. I think that there's a lot of real world value here, but then the thing for me has always been the community. You can't replicate the community, and there's something very special that has been created over here for a number of reasons. And I think that people definitely need to look at it and at least give it a second chance if they've wrote it off the first time.
So the value proposition is twofold here. So the first run that Hex had retired some of us. Not only retired some of us, but we were able to, in my camp, build 4 businesses, put rain gutters on my house, and, you know, put a $3 million movie together. So the first run did pretty good. It was good returns for that first run. Now we're in a bear market. For anybody who knows anything about investing in these types of markets, you have up cycles and down cycles, and then up cycles and then down cycles. But guess what? From the inception of all these markets, they've always gone up and to the right over the years. It's about time in the market, not time in the market. That's what people need to realize here. And on top of that, these products that Richard has built are on solid principles of using time to create your value. So we need to keep all that in mind as we're moving forward. Now, as far as, you know, the community coming together and getting out in front of this, we're doing our thing. Like you said, the PulseChainTour, and it's going to be cool that we get to meet again. You're going to be there speaking in Utah. Yep. So for those of you who are in the area or not in the area, you want to fly out and come see us on the 13th of this month, just next week, we're going to be doing a tour in Utah. You can go to PulseChainTour.com. That's where all the tickets are for that. And this is really a voluntary effort. I have a crew that I pay to put these events on, but I make $0 off of this. I make 0 crypto off of this. This is all for the community. I put my time, my effort, and my money on the line so that we can do this again. Because like I said, it's twofold. One thing, we're building technology that the world needs, meaning people don't have financial tools anymore. They can't save money anymore. I was a blue collar worker. I'm not just some crypto guy or some entrepreneur that has become rich and wealthy and done these things. I put my boots on at night in the dark and I took them off in the dark. That's what I did for 30 years. I was a millwright by trade. That's how I did. But I did on the side. I had entrepreneurial endeavors on the side because I knew one day I wanted to make life better for my family. And I wasn't doing it by putting money in a stupid 401k. That thing was a 104k, not a 401k. It was done. It was gone. It wasn't going to help me any. So I knew I had to do something. And that's what I did. And by chance, I stumbled across crypto. By chance, I stumbled across this technology that can help guys like me, like my buddies that I worked all those years with, that are sitting on their couches right now, not knowing what the hell they're going to do for retirement. I'm of a certain age. You guys are going to have to take a torch. I'm done, man. I'm going to be 57 years old this year. This is your guys' world. I'm ready to walk off into the sunset, but I know that this can help people that are hurting. So that's the first thing that we got here. Now, what I know is that if you go out and help people, the more people that you help, money and income is usually the residual of that. If you go out and do the right thing, you will end up with value. Somehow, some way, you will end up with the value that you need and deserve. So going out and doing the right things and fighting the good fight and bringing a product to market that people need is on one side of the spectrum. Number go up is on the other side of the spectrum, because that's what happens when you get in early on markets. You just got to be able to face the volatility, handle the volatility, and stand strong in the face of it, and not put yourself in a bad position when that volatility comes in to play. So that's it. If you want to hear more about this, come talk to us, come hang out with us in Utah, and or meet us on the tour somewhere. Go to PulseChainTour.com. And this is what we talk about. We talk about DeFi and how it's going to change the world. Talk about how we can, get involved in politics. We talk about, how we're going to get away from the gatekeepers and how we're going to get away from centralized exchanges and how we're going to help people to get away from bad crypto and into good crypto, which is DeFi.
Well said. I mean, anybody that just listened to anything you just said, I don't know how you could disagree with anything, because one of the issues that I see is everybody's at each other's throats in the crypto space as a whole, for scamming, for being an insider, for doing this. But there's very few people that are honest and want everybody to win, and that are, telling everybody exactly how it's, is behind closed doors, the things that they don't see every day. And it's important that, you follow those type of people. And there's very few people in crypto that have those sort of original values of true DeFi, keeping things decentralized, being your own bank, and keeping those core values intact in crypto. And as we see so much migration, so much stuff change, I think it's important that you guys are checking out these type of people that share the same values, because at the end of the day, I don't have the opportunity to talk as much about maybe my personal beliefs with DeFi, maybe my personal beliefs around, crypto as a whole. But one thing I can say is the people over on PulseChain, the people in Hex, some of these OGs like RG3 that have been here, they've seen a lot of things in the crypto markets. I've had the conversations with them. They've seen a lot of the same insider garbage that I have. And you got to be able to know that there's people out there that do have your best interest of mind. There's people out there that do want to see you win. And it's important to find that community early on, because those are going to be the ones that profit the most when things get hard, when the volatility is the highest. Those are the people that, you're going to win with. So I think it's important you guys check them out. Check out the PulseChainTour as well. You guys can actually use D.I.Y 10 for 10% off on any of those tickets. It's going to be in Lehi, Utah, right outside of Salt Lake. So I'm going to be there. I'm from Utah, so I'm going to try and bring as many people out there from Utah as well. But yeah, man, I really do appreciate you coming on to this live stream. I think it was a great opportunity to start off with you being the first guest, because you've really spearheaded a lot of the growth. And I'm just, grateful that you've had me on speaking, and I've been able to participate in a little bit of it, because you guys are doing some great things.
Well, thanks, man. I guess I'll leave it with this. It's really about, when it comes to all of us coming together and doing something good, it comes to the word of trust. We've got to start trusting one another. We've got to start trusting that what we're doing is right. Look, when you're in an investment vehicle, in order for that investment vehicle to make you wealth, to pay your bills, to do what you want it to do for you, other people have to come in and push that up, just like housing, just like the orange juice market, you name it. Every market needs people buying it. Period. End of story. Now, the problem is that they've sold crypto as a thing to go and gamble on, a thing to sit in front of a screen for hours and hours and days, staring at that screen, staring at those charts, and taking from the other person on the other side. In order for you to win, somebody else has to lose. That's a zero-sum game right there. This trading stuff has to stop. This is not what's going to make you wealthy. What's going to make you wealthy is you getting involved in an asset class that can help the world, take it to the world, bring adoption, and by doing so, you will generate wealth. That's how these tools were built. That's how the stock market was supposed to be built, is for people to invest long-term, and you're going to take your handful of marbles out of the jar. Everybody's got to put their marbles in the jar, guys. And then when you want it back out, everybody's got to put their hand back in. So people out here complaining about being exit liquidity or people shilling a bag, save it. Save that. The whole world operates that way. Your whole life is that way. People are selling and buying things all day in order for you to make money. That's how this thing works. So just remember, if you go out and do something good, you put your effort in, you put your time in, you bring adoption, that's going to be what pumps your bag. And going out and helping people with this product because of what Richard's done, because of who he is, and because of the things, the thought and the things that he's put behind this, this is the product to get involved in crypto with, because it's going to be good for the world and you're going to pump your own bags by doing so.
Well said. You got to have that self-fulfilling prophecy. And I really do think that this is a great community to be a part of, when it comes to values, when it comes
glad to have you, man. We're glad to have you.
Hell yeah, I appreciate it. Well, that's the thing. I remember you guys came at me with pitchforks in the last cycle because I said something negative. I had my first introduction as a little bit of a negative one, but that's when I was like, man, there is like a huge amount of people over here that are like diehard to the max. So, I sacrificed. I ended up actually participating a little. And then, after coming to the coming and talking to people, coming to PulseChainTour, having the opportunity to communicate with some of the people that have been here from the beginning, there's a lot of the core values that I stand by, that you guys stand by. And it's really a great thing to be a part of. And I encourage anybody to come along and join. I have everything for your TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all of the above linked in the description of this video, so you guys can go and find RG3. Great person, tons of great content, lots of great live streams. It's been a pleasure to have you on. I think that this was a great first introduction for live streaming, and this is somebody that you guys can get behind because he stands by a lot of the same values I do as well. So definitely check him out, and I appreciate you so much for coming on, my friend.
Thanks, bro. And I can't wait to see you this next weekend, man. We'll go hang out.
Yes, sir, my friend. That sounds like a plan. I'm looking forward to it. Well, you guys subscribe, check everything out. And with that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you so much.